Guys, Tara here with another Crafting with Curly Cues video. Today I'm going to do some black and white coloring with this adorable Paper Smooches stamp set, and I'm going to use my Prismacolors and gamsol to do that. So to get started, I'm going to take this great chemistry set by Paper Smooches. I love this mad scientist guy. He's so cute. And I'm just going to take some Nina Solar White, and I'm going to use my archival ink so that it doesn't smear when I use my Prismacolors and gamsol. And I'm going to stamp this really awesome mad scientist just brewing away in his lab here. So this card for me was inspired by a video that Sandy Alnock did. She is a coloring guru, and she used Copics to color her black and white image, and I don't have enough gray Copic tones, so I went with Prismacolors. But I will link over my blog post to that Sandy Alnock video so you can check that one out as well. So I have stamped little scientist guy there, and I'm also going to take on this sticky note and stamp just his hand, because I am going to do some very confusing, ineffective masking of his hand later. The masking really boggled my mind here of trying to figure out how to get his holding the little bottle, the beaker of concoction in his hand and make it look right. Sandy Alnock did it on her blog, and for some reason I just couldn't quite mimic it, but I came up with a solution, so I will show you what I do with the solution later. But I also wanted to show you how you can use a sticky note for masking. So if you don't have any masking paper, just stamp as much of the image as you can on the sticky portion of the sticky note, and then you can just cut it out and it works great as a mask. So I'm just going to stick his little hand right on there, and then I am going to clip off another piece of the sticky note and just kind of cover some of his arm just to make sure I don't stamp on top of him. So I'm going to take that beaker and I'm going to stamp it in his hand, and a lot of you have probably already realized my mistake in that by stamping his hand and then masking it, it's going to look like the beaker is floating behind his hand, which is absolutely not what I'm going for. So you can see I stamped another hand up there. I'm going to cut out his little fingers later to make this work the way that I want it to. And I do have to do some clever fixing here of my mistakes. So you can totally see that absolutely did not work. I should have stamped the beaker first and then masked it off and then stamped him. Anyway, my solution to that was that I'm just going to stamp another beaker, and I will later just fussy cut those out and pop them right on top, because I was tired of trying to figure out how to make this masking work. So I went with the lazy route there. So this is my card base. It is Nina 110 pound solar white cardstock, and I'm just going to take some Post-it tape and mask off the top portion of the card so that I don't get any stamping on the back of the card. And I'm just going to stamp directly on the card front here, and I'm going to create a little background for Scientist Dude. And I'm just going to use this stamp set. Comes with about 1.5 million really fun images that coordinate with this mad scientist. So there's beakers and stoppers and kabooms and smoke bubbles and all kinds of good stuff. So I am just going to take a bunch of those and stick them on some acrylic blocks and have them handy to just stamp up this background here. So a way to make your acrylic block stretch when you're trying to do something like this where you want to have access to a lot of different stamps is just to put one on each side of the block, and then you can just flip it over and you have a totally different stamp handy there for you. So that's what I did here. I just busted out a few different blocks, and I am just stamping all of these really fun images that coordinate with Scientist Guy on the card base. And I'm going to also be coloring these in black and white. So the whole tone and theme of this card is completely black and white. I'm going to use all different gray tones and make, so you can see there's my gray tray from my Prismacolors. I do have the 150 set of Prismacolors, so I have a few different gray options. This is what I use instead of gamsol. It's just thinner that I got at Fred Meyer, and here's my blending stumps there. So I am going to go ahead and get going on the coloring for this. I did use a mixture of some warm grays, some cool grays, and all different sorts of grays, and I'm just going to play some music for the coloring, and I'll be back with you guys when it's all through. Thanks! All right, so now that that coloring is all taken care of, we are going to go ahead and start working on the layout for this card. So first I'm going to fussy cut these little additional elements that I stamped to make my masking work, and then I'm going to take these square die cuts by My Favorite Things, and I am going to die cut out little scientist guy. So I'm just going to position that to get him in the frame as best I can, and I'm okay if the bottle hangs off the side because I'm going to fussy cut the other one out and glue it on top, so that's fine. And then I'm going to use the slightly larger square to cut some Simon Says Stamp black cardstock to create a frame for Mr. Scientist Guy so that he can be matted on the front of that card. So now you can see that I've got all of this cut out here, and I am going to start looking at what to do as far as the layout is concerned. So I love that black frame on the white there. I think it really makes him pop. I think that looks really cool. So now I'm going to take my Zig glue pen and I'm going to glue on these little pieces that are going to make his little hand there where I messed up that beaker not look quite so silly. So there is the beaker going on, and so that automatically helps quite a bit. And then when I stick the little fingers on top, it really adds just that extra element of dimension to this little scientist guy holding a speaker. So there, masking crisis averted. That's how you fix things. Just, you know, figure it out and never throw it away. That's my motto. So I am now taking out some of my gel pens. So this is my black jelly roll, and I'm just going over some of the places that the Prismacolor pencils either dulled the stamp line or that maybe the stamp line didn't stamp as crisply as I would have liked in the first place. And I'm just kind of helping some of those areas look a little bit more solid. And then I'm going to take my Signo Uniball white gel pen and I'm going to add some white highlights. And I think that this adds a lot in any card, but in this card in particular, because I am doing black and white, it really helps just kind of add some dimension to all those beakers in the background. And then I'm also going to get a little bit crazy with his mad scientist hair. I was totally channeling like Back to the Future, Doc Brown and his crazy hair. That was what I was thinking of here. So that's where I went with that. But I think that the white highlights just really kind of help make it pop, because you don't have any color pops on this particular card, so that really adds that extra element of pizzazz there. So now that that is all done, I can start assembling the layout, which is really pretty basic. I'm gonna go ahead and do my sentiment now. I'm taking the scrap from that black square and I am using the little sentiment in the card, or excuse me, the stamp set that says "Let's Bond." Super adorable. And I'm taking my Versamark ink and I'm just going to stamp that "Let's Bond" on that black cardstock in Versamark, and then I'm going to heat emboss it in some white embossing powder. So this is my Ranger Superfine White Detail embossing powder that I love, and I'm going to try to be super clever and get it right back in the bucket without using a separate sheet of paper, and it didn't work very well. I got it all over my craft mat, but you know, hey, live and learn. I gave it a shot. So now that's on the black, and I'm going to go ahead and heat set that with my heat tool, and this white sentiment is really going to pop on that black. So now I'm going to take my trimmer and just trim out this sentiment, and I thought at first that I was going to want it to be a little bit thicker, and it turns out that I didn't like that, so I just trim it up, and then I go back in and I'm just going to cut a little bit more to make it a little bit of a thinner sentiment banner, which is always tricky for me when I'm trying to do these little thin pieces because I can't hold it in place with my fingers, and my control freak nature goes a little bonkers when I'm trying to do that. But anyway, it worked. So then I'm going to bust out my white gel pen again, and I'm going to put a nice little border around the outside of this little sentiment, and then I'm going to add some little dots. I don't know why. I thought that kind of went with the mad scientist theme, so I went with it. And so there's my little border banner all taken care of there. So now all that's left is really just to put this together, which is nice and easy. You can see I did a boo-boo stamp on the back there of Mad Scientist Guy. So again, always flip it over. Every paper has two sides. It's beautiful. So I'm just using my ATG gun to get him all sticky and put him on that mat there. I'm not doing a whole lot of dimension on this card. I think that the appeal of this card is the kind of unique black and whiteness, so I want that to be the focal point. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue the entire panel with the scientists directly onto the card front and put that right on. And then I will pop up my sentiment a little bit just because it was hard to make it lay flat because there's some dimension now where those two pieces of cardstock are layered up. So I'm taking these little Best Creation foam squares that came in my August Simon Says stamp card kit, and I'm just going to use a few of those to pop up this sentiment. And I'm really bad at peeling the backs off. Like I get them stuck to each other. I saw in one video a crafter, and I don't remember who it was, I apologize, but someone put a piece of tape on their station and then just stuck all those little backs on that piece of tape, and I thought that was super genius because they kind of go everywhere. So now you can see that my sentiment is on there, and then I've got my sequins, my 4 glorious sizes of sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh, and I am just going to scatter a few of those and use my micro glue dots to adhere them. After I was all done with the video, I did go back and put some glossy accents on his eyes as well as the beaker and add some bubbles over the beaker. So you can see how cool that black and white turned out. I think it looks really neat. Here's a close-up of little scientist dude all black and white. If you like this, please hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. I have listed all the supplies that I used over at my blog, so go ahead and check that out and join me on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. If you like this video, here's a couple more Paper Smooches videos for you, so go ahead and check those out. And thank you so much for joining me. Bye.